Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's stream. We're set to have a pretty good week. So the market is just like inching higher. That's good to see, but we are starting to see a couple stocks look pretty good. And of course, we have PayPal running up and breaking out, which is awesome. But Tom, I would say Boeing's like the main stock to watch today.
Yeah, definitely. They had some amazing news today. They're actually going to resume deliveries of their 787s, I believe, and then they also got an order from the Emirates for two 777s. So I know it's a lot of weird numbers there, but in the end, I think that them resuming those deliveries, Mike, of those 787s are going to be huge for them. And obviously they get paid whenever they finally deliver the jet. So hopefully they start getting some good profits from this. And as we can see, their stock is really on the uptrend here. It even broke above 228 for a while. And if we look on the max daily chart here, 228 to 230 has been a pretty big resistance over the past few days.
No doubt. I mean, we have some good news to go along with this run up, but then again, it's in a pretty good technical breakout. It's a solid company, solid stock. It's hard to bet against them, especially for the long term. So I would say overall, Boeing, it's still in a good position for the long term, but even for like short term trades, I think it looks pretty solid. Let's say we break $230. Like, what's the next major resistance to look out for?
Honestly, the next major one I'm seeing is going to be up there right around, you could say 240 to 241. I think that's going to be the next big one. You can see there's a pretty clear gap in between 230 and 240. So hopefully if we break 230, we can start to get some pretty good moves up. The last time you can see we were around 230, we actually broke it and then ended up running right up to 240. So hopefully we see something like that happen again. And I think that we might. This is pretty good news, and the stock is going to gap up today and look a lot better than it looks right now.
Awesome. So yeah, it looks like we should have the market opening in like 40 seconds or so, which pretty good to see. I am looking through a couple different setups. I know that like Mara is not looking too good. I know a lot of people were watching like Bitcoin and just like ETFs and stocks that follow it so far. So Mara's definitely not looking the best right now. Riot's actually holding up a lot better. Like it actually it's kind of like the complete opposite.
Yeah, it really is actually. Riot is coming down as of right now, but man, early in the morning, yeah, you can see like Riot had a big move to the upside at like you could say 6:10 Central Time, and then if we go look at Mara, you can see they had a big move down like right at the same time, which is kind of strange. So yeah, just looking at it, definitely like the opposite. And honestly, these stocks are kind of strange. They move really strange compared to like Bitcoin and stuff. So hopefully we see Bitcoin just keep ripping back so that Mara and Riot can keep going up. But it's going to be tough. Bitcoin's been all over the place this weekend.
No doubt. So yeah, that's awesome to see. How about AI, Tom? This morning, AI is up nearly 8%, and it's running up, and it is actually starting to have a lot of volume come in too.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully they can get back up and start to get back to these levels that they were at last week. They had that big sell-off in the middle of the week on Tuesday and Wednesday. It looked like AI might start breaking out on the daily chart right there, and then it just had a complete rejection. But it looks like right now it's coming right back up. And like you said, this recovery today is very strong. The volume's coming in, and we can see at open, it just keeps running higher and higher here. There is going to be some resistance actually right around where we are. I would say like right around 5130 to 5150. But besides that, I feel like that if we can break that today, we could have a pretty nice run up, possibly back up to 5380 or something like that. This is pretty good, Mike. I wonder if there's some good news with them.
Yeah, it is looking pretty good. We'll definitely keep this one on the radar. We're also seeing a slight continuation of Zoom. I don't know if you saw Zoom at like the end of the day on Friday, Tom, but talk about a crazy reversal. Like, you got to see this thing intraday.
Yeah, let's go check it out. 5-day, 15-minute. Wow, that is a crazy recovery, actually. And it actually held its support pretty good, which is nice to see. It actually failed to move below 245. That's actually awesome. And it looks pretty good on the technical side, too. Like, we look at the daily chart bouncing off support pretty well. Man, it looks pretty good here for a possible recovery with Zoom, and it's bouncing on support. There is a little bit of gap here on the daily between like 306 and between like 335. I know people are probably going to be eyeing that up over the next few days, but man, what a nice recovery. I'm so glad that to see how they moved at the end of the day Friday. They really started to break back out, and hopefully they can get back up towards this 265 resistance up here.
Sounds good. All right, so I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. Thank you guys so much for being here, and welcome to the stream. So welcome George, I'm Fierce, Corbin, Jamie, J-Trade, and Rick. It's awesome to have you guys. You guys know the drill. Let us know what stocks you're watching. We'll definitely take a look at them. Tom, Lucid's looking pretty good. What's going on?
Yeah, they're coming right back. They're actually breaking the highs of last week right now. This is getting to be an exponential move all the way up to $46. Ever since I clicked on it, they moved up like a whole dollar ever since then. And wow, I mean, they have earnings coming up tonight after market close. I bet people are going to be really eyeing this company up. And man, this stock looks pretty good right now. It honestly reminds me of AFRM whenever AFRM was on its nice staircase to the upside. And Lucid has been having some amazing news. They're in an awesome sector. The earnings tonight are going to be really crazy. So definitely watch out for that. Looks like we're having a bit of a pre-earnings run up here. And how can I blame them? You know, they just started delivering vehicles and, you know, they came out with that 500-mile battery range, which is the highest in its class right now. So hopefully Lucid has some good earnings. But I'll be honest, the earnings are going to scare me a little bit because, you know, sometimes whenever these stocks has so much momentum like this, if the earnings just go slightly south, it could just end up causing a huge sell-off. And man, I'll be honest, like since they just started deliveries, the earnings might not be too good yet, but I bet their outlook is pretty good.
Gotcha. Awesome. So yeah, they're really running up. A lot of these EV type stocks are. And speaking of like the EV market, how are Blnk and like ChargePoint doing?
Blink's actually doing a little bit better than Lucid this morning. They're actually, well, they keep flip-flopping in percentages, but either way, Blnk is running to the upside pretty well. It's not breaking out like Lucid is, but it is actually retesting its resistance here right around, you could say like 42.80 up there at the top, I guess. You could also say like $42 even. It's pretty volatile, so definitely give or take about 50 cents on this one. But man, it's going to be tough today with Blnk. It looks like it's getting rejected as of right now intraday. If we go to the 1 minute, it actually hit right off of that $42 level, and now it's coming down. Hopefully we can get some more momentum later on. But as of right now, honestly, Lucid and Tilray seem to be the two like biggest movers on my watch list.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I have AI really running up there and then Boeing.
Oh yeah, Boeing, of course, too. I didn't even have AI on my watch list, but yeah, Boeing's doing pretty good. I actually need to throw AI on there, to be honest.
Awesome.
But there we go, threw it on. And yeah, I've been actually eyeing up AI for a while, too. I know that we've been talking about that one a little bit now. I was eyeing them up a long time ago while they were, I was actually eyeing them up while they were still back at like the $45 level, like a long time ago. So definitely it's pretty good, I think, for the longer term. And, you know, these AI companies, you know, like AI is a good example. Like it's really underperformed compared to some of these other ones like DDOG or just other stocks like that. But I feel like AI could do pretty good in the longer term, and hopefully it goes up with the growth stocks.
Yep, I'm with you. There we go. All right, we have Sean saying Square. So Square's actually looking pretty good today. They're having a pretty good bounce back up after, what is that, like a 2 or 3 week downtrend. So it's looking pretty good. IV's pretty low. So this one doesn't look too bad for maybe some short puts or maybe even a dip buy.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good as well. You know, the daily chart looks pretty good. There's a big support, like you said, at 225. And I love the way it's moving off of that. The technicals are lining up. And I'll be honest, a lot of stocks are looking like this. Like Square's finally moving up after its bad downtrend here. You know, Zoom's finally popping back up off their support. Looks like a lot of these stocks are setting up pretty well right now. I know Corsair is another one kind of by support. They're not moving too much today. But in the end, like you said, Zoom and some of these stocks are looking really good at these levels.
Awesome. All right, so we have George saying, crowd is tanking on downgrade by Morgan Stanley. WTF. Yeah, wow, I didn't realize it was this bad. So yeah, down like about 8% or so. That sucks. Yeah, it sucks to see that. I mean, they do have a little bit of support right at 260, and then there's another support level right around 240. So hopefully it bounces pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully. And it looks like it's kind of holding this purple 100 SMA too. It looks like this stock has kind of held this level a little bit in the past. So hopefully we can see it kind of hold here again. But I'll be honest, this stock's been on a pretty good uptrend. And it looks like it double topped like right around that $300 huge psychological level. So I would definitely be careful with it in the short term. But for the longer term, I think they'll be pretty good.
Awesome. Tom, today's a good day. DraftKings is actually up and it's trending in the right direction.
That actually looks really good, Mike. And look at this on the daily chart, bouncing right off the $40 support. Hopefully, this is all we need for DraftKings to start to get back up there. I actually circled this one intraday there whenever it touched that $40 level. But man, that's an awesome reversal. I really hope that this one can get back on the uptrend. Hopefully, the $40 support ends up holding up. And man, I know I'm going to be buying it as long as it stays below like $45. So I hope that we stay a little bit lower, honestly, just so I can keep grabbing more shares. But in the end, I love DraftKings, and I'm so glad to see him coming back, Mike. And man, we need some good piece of news with them. Like we just need one good thing to come out, and I feel like they could go right back on that uptrend.
I'm with you. Here we go. All right, Tom. Every time I look at Boeing, it's just going higher and higher. We got to give this one some coverage.
Yeah, there we go, up 5%. Man, like you said earlier, these technicals have been amazing on Boeing. They had an amazing uptrend this morning with this great news. They broke above the 228 resistance, which is amazing. And now they moved up to 230. So I think that they're on the breakout. Whenever we look at them on the daily chart here, especially over the past year, you can see how Boeing is really consolidated between kind of like this wedge, we could say, and it's starting to finally break out of this wedge to the upside as of the past few days. And I really love this move today. This is showing some amazing technicals, breaking the 230 resistance even. And man, if we see another green day tomorrow, I think it's game on for Boeing. They're starting their deliveries again. And, you know, they've been on a pretty bad downtrend ever since they hit that high all the way back in March. That's been a pretty long time that we've been consolidating here. So I think we're finally due for a nice move.
Awesome. Yeah, Tom, I got to give it to you. You basically called that one spot on Friday, so awesome job with that one.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's pretty good technicals. And, you know, sometimes whenever you trust them, they end up paying off. And, you know, I had no idea the news was going to come out, but man, I'm just glad it worked out with the technicals.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so guys, let us know what stocks you're watching. We'll definitely take a look at them. I would say, Tom, I would actually say about like 50% of my watch list is green, the other half red. And it looks like we are seeing like a decent amount of, I don't know, I guess you could say, like some stocks are popping off and some are tanking. Like we could see Tesla's down like 2%.
Yeah, they're actually moving down. They had a terrible pre-market. They had a bad opening today. We can see right at market open on the 1 minute, they had a pretty bad drastic sell-off. So hopefully this doesn't keep going. But I'll be honest, with the way Elon came out and started selling his shares, I would not be surprised. And man, it's just there is a pretty big support around $1,000 even, like we can see here on the daily. But I have a feeling this might get broken. It's just a very weird scenario right now with Elon selling all these shares. I think it's just going to accelerate a short-term sell-off. But in the end, I feel like it will turn around eventually. But right now, it's just looking very strange. And it's a very strange catalyst as well. Like I know that over the weekend, I saw an article that said it totaled $6.9 billion in stock that he sold. And, you know, while that might not affect Tesla overall too much, it's just going to accelerate more sell-off. So I hope that it doesn't keep going down. But with everything going on, I would not be surprised. And, you know, Tesla always has these big swings. Like you can see the last time they broke out, they had a huge run and they had a pretty big pullback. So hopefully that's all it is this time and they start to go back up in the future.
Awesome. All right, we have Terry saying good morning. Morning, Vicky. George said TTWO also tanking, I think due to studio acquisitions. So, wow, down 6.5%. Not looking good, but I do like this one for the long term.
Yeah, me too. And, you know, this is a very weird move actually to the downside. And like he said, though, if they're acquiring somebody, it might be pretty good for the longer term. So I don't know. I like the company, though. And I know that like whenever Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, this company is going to get a lot of attention. So I don't know. It might even be worth just buying and holding shares until that event because, man, that's going to be a very crazy event. And whenever GTA 5 came out, I remember this company was going crazy, Mike. Like, look at this on the Max Weekly, how much this company's actually grown.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking at the news right now. It looks like TTWO announced that they have acquired video game developer Roll7. So that's interesting, but I guess you can say that this movement is kind of expected. Kind of like Tom said, like most of the time when there is news with acquisitions or mergers, the company that is actually paying the money is the company that normally falls, and then the other company normally rises. So that's interesting, but I think it should be fine for the long term. And you know, maybe if it dips down to maybe like 160, or maybe even if we get lucky, Tom, maybe 140. I feel like it could be a great spot to just like buy some shares.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, that would be an amazing pickup if we could get some down there again. And, hopefully this creates a little bit of a downwards move in the short term. Like we can see sometimes this stock will have two pretty harsh red days in a row. So hopefully we see that come in again just so we can get those shares. Or even if it moves down to maybe like 165, I might even sell some puts like around like 160 or even down at like 140. I think that's going to be a really good setup. And, like we talked about, a lot of companies move down with this type of acquisition news. So we even saw DraftKings do it. They started going on the downtrend right whenever they had that news about the Entain deal.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we have Corbin saying, I'm looking at Snap and Cat. So, two solid companies. We look at Snap, and it is currently having a pretty good day. So, looks good, Corbin. Hopefully, we see a breakout soon. And shoot, I mean, it'd be awesome if we could even fill like half of the gap, Tom. Like, it had a huge gap down on earnings. So, even if we could just fill like half of it, I feel like that could be awesome for like any like short-term call play.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing, actually. And it looks like it's on the uptrend. It might not be a bad like little gamble play here. It obviously has some good potential. They're not going to go anywhere. Even though they had that bad downtrend while Facebook fell, Twitter fell. It seemed like almost all the social media companies fell right as that DWAC IPO or whatever that was came onto the market. I guess that was a SPAC deal, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the DWAC SPAC deal. So it's a very weird situation with these social media companies, but I feel like they could definitely come back up. And it looks like it's coming up in the short term. I would hope that we at least come back up to $60. And, that is 5 points away. That's a pretty big move in itself.
Yeah, exactly. And then looking at CAT, I feel like this one has been like slowly heating up. Like, of course, it is a value stock, so it's not going to move like a Tesla or like a Snapchat or anything like that. But then again, the options will be a lot cheaper. But anyways, I just feel like it's slowly heating up. These value stocks didn't really do too much over the past year. So yeah, I do like the setup, Corbin. It's definitely holding its ground and it's making higher lows.
Yeah, and I really like the support on CAT right around $200 even. So I feel like as long as you're buying somewhere around there, I think you'll be pretty good. And the good news is that with the infrastructure bill getting passed, that'll do nothing but help Caterpillar, hopefully. So I think it's a good infrastructure play. And we saw it pop like over the past couple of weeks with that infrastructure news. So hopefully we see it start to go back up here. I know it's not having the best day so far, but like Mike said, it's going to be a pretty slow mover. I would say with this one, I would recommend just either getting like longer term options or just shares, just given how, little this one moves.
Yep. All right, there we go. Let's see. I'm just trying to see what else we have moving. It looks like Facebook, or I should say Meta, is having a pretty good day, up nearly 3%.
Man, this one is actually back on the uptrend. I love to see this actually. I've been really eyeing up Facebook lately. I have not been getting any shares yet, but man, it looks like it's gonna leave me behind. I mean, man, it's starting to really run. Obviously, the metaverse news really changed the company's, I guess you could say, people's sentiment about the company. At the time the news came out, there were all these whistleblowers, all this negative news about Facebook. Now all we see is positive stuff about the metaverse, augmented reality, all these companies joining in on the metaverse and kind of getting in on it. So it seems like a pretty big thing. We've been seeing lots of other stocks like Nvidia and stocks like that move up with this type of news as well. And it's been really good. So honestly, this metaverse news has been really making Facebook fly. And I would really eye these guys up over the next few days. I think that as they start to have this uptrend, we definitely need to throw them on the radar because this is such a strange scenario with them creating this metaverse. It's just such a weird thing for the future. And I feel like lots of people are getting excited about it.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Awesome. All right, so then we have Terry saying, I'm swinging some Apple calls. So, it's nice to see Facebook going up, but Apple looks like it's definitely uptrending as well. It's kind of like lagging behind a little bit.
Yeah, and it looks like it's almost in the same type of setup. Like it hasn't had the same type of moves up percentage wise, but in the end, it's moving up very nicely in its own right. And hopefully Microsoft is doing that as well. And looks like Microsoft's actually falling down. Looks like Apple's actually outperforming today. I know Microsoft's been outperforming over the past few weeks. Maybe we'll see Apple start to go on the uptrend while Microsoft consolidates a little bit.
Yeah, there we go. Awesome, awesome. We have Vicky saying levels on coin, please. COIN. It's looking pretty good. I would say it's actually holding up pretty good, like given how some of these like other, I guess you can say, quote unquote crypto stocks are doing. But what do you have for us, Tom?
Yeah, it seems like there's going to be a huge resistance right around this $360 level up to 370. There's definitely a lot of different, you can see we hit a lot of different areas between there and ended up falling. I would say the main one's going to be more around 360 even though. But man, it looks like we're on the uptrend. Like you said, Coinbase is looking pretty good compared to a lot of these other crypto stocks. And I love to see Coinbase going up. They've been moving off these bottom support levels pretty well. I thought there were some pretty good opportunities down here. I remember Hunter was doing some cash secured puts down here whenever they were at like 225, which was some amazing times to do it. So they went right back on the uptrend. Congrats to everyone who got shares too. That was an amazing buy on support. But it looks like right now, I would say it's a little overextended in the short term. It's going to have a lot to do with how Bitcoin ends up moving. But hey, if Bitcoin goes up in the short term, I would really hope to see Coinbase start to fly up as well. And, they're moving up today, even while Bitcoin did have a pretty good weekend. So I'm not too surprised to see Coinbase up, but, it's a very interesting stock. And it's so interesting to me because of how Bitcoin is. And obviously they're going to follow them to somewhat of a degree.
Yep. All right, Tom, we also can't forget about these MJ stocks. So we look at Tilray or SNDL or even just the MJ ETF. It's having a pretty good pop up. And I feel like it's been quite a while since we saw this sector pop.
Yeah, it has actually. I really hope to see more of these stocks go up. Like you said, that ETF, the MJ ETF is looking great. Tilray is actually starting to really go up. I can't believe that they're almost back up to $14. Like we haven't seen that on Tilray in a while. So I agree. They're all doing very good. Hopefully Kronos is doing good. Yeah, they're turning around. CGC, PLNHF. But even PLNHF looks like they're turning around pretty well. And man, PLNHF is actually right on a huge $4 support. So man, I'm going to be really eyeing this one up. Actually, I know this one's a nice US company. So this one might be pretty good here to pick up pretty low. So definitely I'll be eyeing up PLNHF. MSOS is another US cannabis ETF. Man, this one's on fire. And you know what I really like about this one, Mike, it's the US cannabis ETF. And we can see it's actually moving up a lot more than some of these Canadian stocks are. So that's great to see.
Yeah, you actually read my mind. I was just about to mention that. And, I was really, really considering doing a cash secured put on this one because, yes, it's still at like a relatively low level in the grand scheme of things. It's not as low as I'd like. But look at that implied volatility. That thing is nearly doubled in like the past couple of weeks. So, that's going to make a huge, huge difference on the price of the option. So, I don't know, I'm really considering it. Like you said, it's like the US ETF. There still aren't any amazing US MJ stocks that I found yet. But still, I feel like it'll be a pretty good long-term hold. Not the safest play in the world by any means, but I feel like given everything, it's still at a pretty decent level.
Yeah, it is. And even for shares, I feel like it'll be pretty good. Like even if you get the shares and it falls back down to the lows around $26, you're not going to be down that much, respectively. So it's not too bad. And I feel like that for the longer term, it should do pretty good. And some US stocks that are pretty decent are PLNHF, like I said. They're obviously a US stock, but another one is GRWG, Grow Generation. This is one of the main stocks that's actually in that MSOS ETF. Looks like this one's doing pretty good. And I'll be honest, this one's at some pretty low levels right now. So if we start to see them all start to go up, hopefully GRWG starts to fly up as it's a good US stock. I really like PLNHF though. Unfortunately, there's not too many US companies out though yet. And, there is a lot that are more private or smaller, but unfortunately, there's not too many bigger corporations yet. We'll definitely have to look into some of the other ones that there are out there and maybe showcase them in tomorrow's video.
Yeah, I'm looking at the holdings right now. Check out CURLF. So CURLF. Yeah, exactly. So this is one of the largest holdings. It looks like they have an 8.5% weighting in the MSOS ETF, where Grow Generation only has a 3.5% weighting. So CURLF is definitely playing a big role into this run up.
Yeah, I'll be honest. This one looks almost like an exact setup of PLNHF, and I'll have to really look into this company. It looks pretty good, and I like the pricing on it, and it's not too far off of support. And man, I would almost just make my own like little US ETF, just go and pick out the like maybe 3 or 4 of the companies I like the most. But man, this one looks pretty solid, to be honest. I might look into this company quite a bit along with PLNHF. I think that this company, it looks like a pretty good setup. And what I really like about it is this longer term support right at $10 even. Hopefully that ends up holding up. It looks pretty solid.
Exactly. All right, one more time. Check out GTBIF. This one had like an amazing reversal over the past week.
Wow, Green Thumb Industries. I've actually heard of this one, but I've never seen their stock before. This looks pretty good though, to be honest. Moved right off of that support back to the upside. Like you said, it's on an amazing uptrend. It's up 4.5% today alone, but look at that move like last Thursday on 11/11. That was actually a crazy uptrend. And wow, I mean, this stock's on fire. I'll have to look into these guys a little more, but this one seems like it's almost a little overbought compared to the other stocks. But wow, I mean, this one's really going up, Mike. It's very interesting. And, I'm glad to kind of look at these US stocks because I haven't looked at them too much, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting either way. So definitely keep your eyes on them. I'm definitely going to do some research into like some like the MSOS ETF. So awesome stuff there. And we have Vicky asking for some levels on Meta, Tom. So Facebook, how's Facebook looking?
Yeah, I think it actually looks like it's starting to break out pretty well right now. There is some resistance that we're right around, unfortunately, which is going to be tough over the next day or two, right around 355. So definitely look at that. We're starting to break out though pretty well from this 343 resistance. So I'm really happy to see it starting to move up. I really hope that we can get up above, like I said, like this 355 resistance, but it's really moving very well here in the short term. Like I said, when it broke out above 345, I think that was an amazing breakout. Looks like we're on the nice uptrend here. Like I said, though, there's not too much resistance until we get back to 355. So definitely eye that up. You could say 360 is coming up after 355, but definitely look at 355 first.
Awesome. And then Mike said, anyone hear this stock called Hive, Hive? So he said it's very similar to Mara and Riot. So I feel like I looked at it a couple times, but I have not looked at its fundamentals too much, to be honest. It looks like they just have their it looks like they just enabled their options trading, which is pretty good to see. The chart does look pretty similar to like a Mara and a Riot Hive blockchain, so I'll look into it a little more. But yeah, it does look pretty similar to Mara and Riot.
Yeah, it looks pretty similar. And the thing I don't like about it though is that Mara and Riot have been, well, at least Mara has been running up to new all-time highs. I know Riot's been lagging behind, but I like how Riot's been breaking out above this $40 resistance lately. I think that's showing some pretty good strength. With Hive, I will say it looks like it had a pretty bad double top up here. So hopefully it keeps going up in the short term, but that double top looks pretty scary. But I feel like for the longer term, as long as Bitcoin does good, this stock might end up doing good. It looks like it's moved pretty well so far the past couple of years.
Yeah, so I'm looking into it. It says that it uses 100% green energy to mine Bitcoin and Ethereum. So that's interesting. Yeah, I'm just like looking at a couple different things with it. I mean, I'll definitely keep it on my radar because I guess it has that like green energy and crypto mix, so that could be good. So yeah, I'll definitely keep it on my radar.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty interesting stock. I've heard of it, but I haven't really looked into it too much, so I don't know too much about what they do fundamentally. That sounds very interesting though, Mike, with the green energy stuff. Maybe that'll be a pretty good play, but I don't know. I feel like that maybe Riot and Mara might be a little bit better. I don't know. Either way, it seems like Riot's moving better today at least. So at least right now, I would look at Mara and Riot, but definitely eye Hive up though. If we see it get down to like a good support or something, I would really start to think about at least getting some shares of it.
How about this Dollar Tree movement, Tom? Up nearly 12%. Looks like they got some good news from analysts, and yeah, it's looking pretty good.
Man, they're breaking their all-time high. Look at this amazing gap, you could say, man. It broke $120 where that double top was, or you could almost say triple top, but that's a crazy move, and I'm glad to see it. I know Dollar Tree has been pretty crazy the past couple of years. You can see they had a huge move to the downside with COVID, and then they just really recovered. I can't believe to see them up this much, to be honest. And it's actually ahead of earnings. Like earnings haven't even came out yet. So maybe if the earnings go well, they'll start to get a really good move. But man, just be really careful. The earnings are coming up. That I'd be really scared of that. It's in about 7 or 8 days. So be pretty careful.
Awesome. All right, and then we have Isaiah mentioning SPY. So SPY, it's doing it's decent. Like it was up this morning in pre-market. It looks like Thinkorswim's lagging a little bit, but it's definitely holding its ground. It's up a little bit, nothing crazy, but we are still really close to the all-time high.
Yeah, and I really like how the SPY is holding some of these SMAs intraday, which is pretty good. And it kind of is bouncing off that low of pre-market around like 467.60. So I like to see that at least. Hopefully it starts to go back on the uptrend. Most stocks on my watch list are green today. I haven't looked at the heat map for the SPY at all, but we are seeing some of the bigger ones red, like Nvidia, AMD, Netflix even. So, hopefully those don't end up dragging the market down. But I feel like the SPY looks pretty decent intraday. I'll be honest, I think I'm going to be more of neutral on it. There's a pretty big resistance at like 469, and I wouldn't be surprised if we were flat to slightly down with some of these bigger stocks being red.
Yep. All right, we have Mark saying Lucid to $0 soon. So always trust your gut, Mark. It looks like they have earnings after hours today. So always trust your gut, but they're definitely uptrending lately.
Yeah, they've been going up a lot over the past few weeks with some good news. Those earnings are coming out. They were running a lot this morning and they started pulling back. I mean, they're definitely not going to go to $0, but I mean, I could see them pulling back pretty hard with earnings. I obviously with them running up a lot, they've been having lots of good momentum and, they're kind of filling this gap on the daily chart and they almost filled it. So hopefully these earnings don't go. Hopefully they come out and they have a good outlook or something because I know that they just started delivering. So their profits right now probably aren't going to be too good. So hopefully the outlook is good. It's pretty scary with the earnings. Whenever these stocks have so much momentum, sometimes that momentum makes it that the earnings have to be so exponentially good that it just can't live up to the hype. So like that's what really worries me about this one. I would not be surprised if it ended up down on the earnings, but I'm really hoping it goes up. I feel like it has obviously a good 50-50 chance, but I feel like whatever it does, it's going to move pretty big in either direction.
All right. Tom, let's check out Pinterest really quickly. This is having an awesome recovery. It's up nearly 5%, and, it had a horrible past couple months, so it looks like we're seeing an awesome bounce right off that 45 support.
Yeah, that looks really good, actually. On the intraday and on the daily chart, it looks pretty solid. I'm glad to see it coming back. There's going to be some resistance around, yeah, I would say right around $50 or so. But man, it looks like a nice uptrend here. And I would definitely eye this one up intraday. It's done today is have green candles on the 5-minute.
Awesome. Yeah, and then Vicky actually just stole my next stock, which is BLNK. So let's take a look at that one. It is looking pretty good, Tom.
Yeah, they are still on the uptrend. They had that little bit of hit off that 42 resistance, but they ended up holding some of these SMAs and ended up breaking it right back up. It looks like it's on the uptrend right now. It just broke that high of Friday, which is awesome. So definitely throw this one on the radar, guys. Looks pretty good. On the 1-year daily, man, we're getting up to these key resistance levels, like right around $44.50 to $45. And I'll be honest, we've already double topped right there. So hopefully we start to see a nice breakout here. We're seeing Lucid running up. We're seeing Blnk running up. Lots of these growth stocks are having some amazing days today. AI's running up even. I mean, it's a nice day so far for a lot of these stocks. And man, BLNK has been on fire the past couple of weeks. It's been super like up and down, but man, most of it's been to the upside. And I know that this infrastructure bill news has been really helping them as well.
Exactly. All right, Zoom's looking pretty good, and Vicky's asking for some levels on it. What do you think?
Yeah, longer term, I'm definitely going to look at this 250 bottom support as a longer term support here, Vicky. That's going to be pretty good. If we look at them on the 1-year daily, you can see $250 has been a pretty good bottom. We did hit 245 recently, but we hit 250 back in the past, and I would say that one's going to be the main level to look at. Now, as we start to go up, I would say that it looks like there's some resistance here right at 275, somewhere right around there. After that, I see the next one right up there around 290 to 300. So it's definitely in a very strange setup. I would say the main level to look at is going to be the bottom 250 support. I would say if you buy shares right here and you put a stop loss at like 243, that might be pretty golden. We have earnings coming up. So if the earnings go south, that could be pretty bad. But hopefully Zoom ends up bouncing off this bottom support. We've been seeing lots of stocks hold their supports lately and go up. So hopefully Zoom ends up being one. And they have a gap to fill on the daily. So that's a nice little technical there too.
But I feel like even if earnings like go bad, I feel like if you just hold this for like the long term, I feel like you should be able to do pretty good.
Yeah, I do too. The earnings worry me. We've seen some stocks lately like Chegg and some of these other stocks go down like 20, 30%. So that does worry me a little bit there. But I like you said though, if you just hold it for the long term, it should end up doing pretty good. And I really hope this company doesn't pull like a Chegg or like man, we've just seen some earnings reports go all over the place. Like some have been amazing and then some have been terrible. So hopefully we see it end up going up. But like you said, if you just hold the shares for the long term, I think it's pretty good anyways. So I agree, Mike. And, I've been eyeing up Zoom a lot myself, to be honest, right around the support.
Yeah, awesome. They're a solid company, and I doubt they're going to go anywhere. Like naturally, yes, they're not going to be making like record revenues like they were like in the heart of the pandemic and things like that. But I feel like the world has just changed over the past couple of years. Like whether it's like learning online or like like court online. Like there's just like so many things that have changed. So like I feel like Zoom is like kind of like one of those stocks that are like leading like the change that we're seeing in the world right now.
Yeah, and I really hope that it holds up. Like we saw Peloton unfortunately have that bad break of support. So I'm really praying for it. I really hope Zoom ends up popping up. We're using Zoom right now, actually. So
Yeah.
we use it. I know lots of other people use it too, and it's a pretty great platform to be honest. And even if, like you said, even if the stock goes down, I'll still like them for the long term. And all that they really need is a good couple of quarters with earnings, and they'll end up doing pretty good in the longer term. So it's not terrible. Even if they break support, like we said, it's not going to worry me too much. But I'll be honest, I feel like some of these other stocks like Corsair and some of the others, I would rather pick these ones up around these levels and maybe even stocks like Boeing and stuff like that. But it's just that's just my opinion though, either way. But I feel like that Zoom's still a pretty decent stock. I would just rather grab some of the other ones.
For sure. All right, we can't forget about some of these China stocks with this earnings week, Tom. We have, Baba, Baidu, I think JD. So we're set for a really volatile week with them.
Yeah, we are. We can see Baba's going to be reporting on Thursday before market open along with JD. So that's going to make for a very interesting week. I know the Queb play is going to be moving pretty drastically with that. We got Baidu on Wednesday before market open. Yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy. And then we even have some pretty big ones in their own rights. We have Nvidia on Wednesday. That's going to be huge. This stock has been on fire. We have Lucid today after close. Of course, we're going to be looking at that one pretty closely. I know Advanced Auto Parts has been on a pretty huge uptrend lately as well. Jumia is actually reporting tomorrow before open. That's going to be interesting. They're like the Amazon of Africa. I know we have lots of big retails this week: Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's. So it's going to be a very interesting week. It's definitely not like the first couple of weeks we had with earnings where we were seeing like Amazon, AMD, and all those stocks within the same week, but still pretty big here. We have Nvidia, Target, and some of these bigger retail companies.
You know it. All right, there we go. We have Ironical saying next support for DraftKings. So DraftKings is, I would say the next major one is like $40.
Yeah, definitely. $40 is going to be right on that. That's actually a really major support. The last time that we touched $40, we actually touched it and then ran all the way up to like $55 before having a true pullback. So that's a pretty good thing to see. We might end up breaking $40 this time to the downside. Unfortunately, we've been seeing some bad moves, but I'll be honest, we touched $40 intraday on Friday pretty well. We can see this little candle here on the 5-minute chart extended down, touched it, and then the stock came right back up. And I'll be honest, there was a lot of volume within that 1 5-minute candle. And whenever we look at that, that shows that there's a pretty big wall there at $40. So as we start to fall down today, I'm going to really eye this one up, because if we start to see a pretty big turnaround back to the upside, I think that can make for some pretty good intraday moves, even for the next couple of days, because that might signal that we might be finally back on at least a couple of days of an uptrend.
Yeah. Hopefully it turns around soon. Like, they've actually had some pretty good news lately, and it just seems like it's been on a really tough downtrend. And, it sucks to see it, but at the end of the day, like, even if it does keep falling, you could just keep buying the dip.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually what I've been doing. My average right now is like 43 something, right around 44. So hopefully we see DraftKings start to go up, and, then we could end up seeing some pretty good gains over the next year or so.
Awesome. All right, there we go. So that is that. I'm trying to see what other stocks we have moving. Looks like Snapchat's leading the way, at least right now. Like it is having a pretty good breakout. Like, up over 6% in a day is pretty big.
Yeah, and on the daily, it's starting to really get up there. Like you said, it had that really bad sell off, but I love the way it's recovering, and it really broke that 55 resistance earlier. I mean, I didn't think we'd end up running up to 57. This has been a crazy exponential move. Definitely throw it on the radar. Looks like it, man, it actually was right around some huge longer term supports like that $50 support. So definitely eye it up. I feel like we talked about earlier, if it only fills this gap halfway back up, that would be a huge move in its own right. So definitely look at it. I feel like shares for this one would be pretty good because, honestly, that would be a pretty solid move back up to, maybe 66, or even if we fill the gap up to $70, that's a pretty big move from 56. And then with shares, you don't even have to worry about anything. If it falls down in the shorter term, you can just keep holding or just average in a little bit more.
Exactly. There we go. So, Tom, like, what are you seeing right now? What are some of your favorite setups? Like, do you see any place you like to the downside, anything to the upside? Like, what are you seeing?
One stock that's been on my radar for the past few days, I have a couple here, but the first one I'm going to talk about is Unity. This stock has been a huge stock with the metaverse. There's been great news with it lately. It actually broke the $200 psychological level today. And I thought maybe that would be a pretty big resistance, but it looks like we broke above it pretty well. Unity is just on the uptrend. We can see on the 5-day, 5-minute chart. Ever since these earnings, it pulled a teledoc. It had a bad move down. The very next day, it exploded right back up and just kept on the uptrend. So still eyeing up Unity, looks pretty good. And I feel like it's a little hard to buy shares of it right now at these all-time highs. But I feel like it's a good play if you can play intraday moves with calls for it, or if you can play the momentum. I feel like it's good for that. Another one that I'm eyeing up for a longer term play, Mike, is PLTR. I feel like a lot of people might have forgotten about this one because it had a terrible week last week. But I'll be honest, it looks like it's on the recovery today. And if we start to see this one start to hit these supports and start to move back up, I think this one could have a pretty good move. They have all these contracts like with the Department of Defense and different government agencies. I feel like they're pretty solid, and they've always been a pretty hyped up stock. So I'm really eyeing them up down here around these supports for the longer term. But they've had some pretty bad moves in the short term, so it's pretty hard to buy this one, Mike. But I feel like if you just pick up some shares, I feel like it'll be pretty good.
Awesome. All right, we have G saying hybrid bot call out. Square is ripping. So I saw that. Square's having pretty good day, up nearly 3%. And it's awesome to see like a pretty great uptrend right from market open.
Yeah, that's actually really nice to see. And we're seeing Square move to the upside. We're seeing PayPal go up. I mean, man, did hell freeze over, or are these like companies starting to go back up? Like, man, PayPal's had a terrible past few weeks. Same thing with Square. Not quite as bad as PayPal, but man, they've been on a pretty bad downtrend as well. And I'll be honest, they're all hitting off these supports and starting to go up pretty nicely, which is awesome. And we're even seeing stocks like Visa and MasterCard start to fly back up. And, these stocks have even been beaten down. So I know that these credit card stocks have been really, I should say, like crazy over the past few months. But man, it looks like PayPal and a lot of these other ones are starting to bounce off support. So definitely eye them up. I feel like they could be pretty good for maybe some leaps or even shares for the longer term, but very interesting setups out of all these stocks. I know even like PSFE, which is PaySafe, they had a pretty drastic move down as well. And, hopefully we start to see these credit card companies do a little bit better.
There we go. We have Jay saying TTD is on fire. So yes, it is. It is exploding. It looks like it just broke. Well, it didn't just break, but it broke the all-time high. What was it, like a couple days ago last week? And yeah, it is on fire. Lots of volume coming in with this breakout. IV's mid-range, so definitely not a bad play.
Yeah, not bad at all. Looks like it's really good. It's definitely good for the momentum right now in the short term. I'm not sure I'd be grabbing shares right here, but with the way we've been seeing some of these stocks move, like Nvidia to the upside, AMD to the upside, TTD has not been any slouch over the past few years. You can see sometimes whenever they start to run, man, they start to go on some crazy uptrends. So definitely eye them up. I feel like they could definitely continue for the next few days.
Awesome. So that's good. I'm looking at like a couple different stocks right now, Tom. One I was just looking at was DWAC. I know this is like the Trump SPAC, and it had an an awesome like initial release. But I'll say like I was like even a nice pop on Friday, that was awesome too, like you just pointed out. But like I'll be honest, like I'm very surprised with like how I guess you could say like how flat it's been. You know what I mean? Like it's just like lost all of its hype for right now. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't mean it won't move in the future. But I'm just saying like over like the past 2 to 3 weeks, like it has literally just stayed right between like 60 and what is that, like 67 or something?
Yeah, it really has actually. And let's look at it on like the 90-day, 15-minute to get a little bit more idea on how it's been moving. But yeah, really, yeah, it's been staying like right between that range there. And I will say it's been really crazy. You know, we've been seeing some crazy intraday moves. Like you said on Friday, there was that huge move in the middle of the day, and then we came right back down. And it's been happening like that in the middle of the day on a lot of different occasions. So I don't know what's happening with this. Is there like a war going on between like bulls and bears on this? Like, are some people trying to beat this stock down while some are trying to buy it up? I don't know, but it looks like some pretty crazy intraday movement. It kind of reminds me of like a Coinbase or something like that. You know, we saw Coinbase IPO and it had so much hype. And I'm not saying DWAC is the same at all, but in the end, you know, they ended up coming down for quite a few months. I really hope that DWAC gets that momentum back. And I feel like that they might, you know, as we start to see that social.com start to, you know, flourish or start to come out with stuff. I think that that'll be pretty good for them. Like we pointed out, whenever it was coming out, Mike, DWAC and that website, you know, or their whole platform actually isn't even out yet. So that's the main thing. I feel like once that starts coming out and once we start hearing more news about it, this stock might get a lot more hype. But you're definitely right. The hype has definitely died down, but it seems like there's been huge intraday moves, which is pretty crazy. You know, it looks like it's honestly setting up pretty well again for maybe another one today.
Yeah, it looks like the market makers are the ones that are making all the money with this one. Think about like everyone who played basically any option on this one, like ever since it had that first initial move. Like IV was priced in a crazy way at 240%. It's now at 150, but like basically if you bought any option on this one, you got screwed over. It's because they were just so expensive. So it's crazy to see either way, and I'm definitely very interested to see how it does like over the next couple of years.
Yeah, me too. And I feel like it could end up being pretty good. Like honestly, for shares, I might look at eyeing them up here around $60. You know, obviously it's going to be a straight up gamble right now. We don't know anything. Like, you know, this platform could just get abolished or just, you know, totally disband or whatever, or it might not ever end up coming out. We have no idea. But in the end, I hope it ends up doing pretty well. And, you know, I'm really curious to see how the platform looks because, you know, I'll be honest, like we've had Snapchat over the past few years, we've had Facebook, we've had Instagram. There hasn't been too much change. You know, there's been Twitter as well, but there hasn't been too many new things coming out. I know TikTok came out, but that was almost the same thing as like Vine or like a lot of the other stuff that has already happened. I just feel like that we need a little bit of a change. And I feel like that Facebook with the metaverse is a pretty cool thing. I'm glad to see this kind of coming out. I think this is a pretty cool innovation. And I really hope that this is maybe the change the world's looking for. But I feel like DWAC really impacted a lot of these social media companies. And I really feel like that Facebook, they might not have ever even came out with this metaverse news if DWAC never came on the market. You know, it's very weird to think that a lot of these companies started dying as soon as this other player came into the market. You know, it's kind of, it seems too much of a coincidence to me. You know, lots of people were blaming Snapchat's earnings at the time, but you know, in the end, their earnings weren't that bad. And, you know, I feel like that even though, you know, like the earnings happened at the same time, I still feel like the DWAC made a pretty big impact on a lot of these companies' moves and decisions.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to think about with everything over the next couple of years. So very interesting overall. We'll definitely keep a watch on DWAC. We have Head saying, "What do you think about PHUN? It moves with DWAC." So yeah, it does. Like if you wanted to play DWAC and if the options were too expensive, I guess you can maybe switch over to PHUN. But I mean, it's not necessarily a play for me. I don't really trade these types of setups. Tom, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks pretty decent. Like you said, it might be a good one for the longer term, but I just don't know. It's going to be pretty tough. Looking at like the 180-day 4-hour chart, the stock is all over the place. I will say it's going to be a straight up gamble. I think this one's a lot lower priced. Like even DWAC to me is a gamble. So I feel like that both of them are going to be pretty risky in their own rights. I would rather grab DWAC myself, but man, if this one runs, it could have some pretty exponential moves. Like we saw whenever DWAC was running, this stock ran from what, like 80 cents up to $24. Like, man, like that was a crazy move.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we have G saying POSH IPO'd at nearly $100 and it's now 20. Bought in the money May 2022 call options and they're doing quite well. So there we go. Yeah, that thing is not looking good at all actually. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm just like kind of like amazed looking at this chart. I guess it goes to show you how sometimes when these stocks IPO, they can definitely be very volatile in the beginning. So very interesting, and I definitely hope that your play continues to work in your favor.
Yeah, I've heard about this company quite a bit, and I'm surprised to see it falling down this much. But yeah, I'll definitely throw it on my radar. It looks like a pretty good bottom down here, maybe. Lots of volume came in at least, so hopefully that's a lot of buyers coming in.
Yep. All right, Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or anything you're watching for tomorrow?
Yeah, one stock that actually just rose to the top of my watch list over the past like 60 seconds has been Clover. Clover's been back on the uptrend, it looks like. It looks like they're moving pretty well. I'm definitely going to eye them up intraday today. I don't like swinging this company, but I feel like for intraday moves, it can be pretty good. I'm definitely going to be eyeing up Boeing. They are kind of pulling back to that like 228 support level, but I feel like this one could be pretty good for the rest of today as well. They had a very nice move this morning. And then I'm still eyeing up these marijuana stocks. Like, man, these things have been on fire. Tilray is back on the uptrend as of the past few minutes. It looks pretty good. And we're starting to see some of these other US companies like GRWG and some of those other ones start to really go up, like MSOS. So I'm really going to eye those up. I heard that there might be some more legislation coming out. So hopefully that helps these companies even more.
Awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We had a great time. A lot of stocks are moving up, so we should be in for a pretty interesting rest of the week because we do have a lot of big earnings too. So again, thank you guys so much for joining and have an amazing rest of your day.